Now there are other ways of multiplying polynomials. I like to teach this method because it's universal. This will work for any problem you encounter in this chapter and even in the future when you're not sure what to do. Always go back to this double distribution. It will never fail you. Okay? And so once again, I'm just going to start here. Notice that I have a binomial times a trinomial. And so I'm going to cover up that 2x. Make sure you keep the sign exposed. Negative 3 times 3x squared would be negative 9x squared. Negative 3 times negative 4x would be plus 12x. Negative 3 times negative 7 would be positive 21. Once I've done my first distribution, I want to shift over and I'll distribute this 2x. So 2x times 3x squared, 2 times 3 would be 6x to the third. And I shifted it over because that wouldn't line up with this term. Now each of the next multiplication results will line up. So when I look at this, 2 times negative 4 is negative 8x squared. And then 2x times negative 7 would be negative 14x. And notice how those terms are lining up perfectly. So I bring my first term down, that's 6x cubed. A negative 9 and a negative 8 would be negative 17. Notice that the labels don't change, so it would be an x squared. When we add and subtract, we create no new animals. 12x take away 14x would be minus 2x, and then a plus 21. I'll do a second example of this, and then we're going to move into what we call a triple distribution. And so I'm just going to keep the camera rolling here. Let's go to our example 6, and let's do something like 3x minus 5y times 2x squared minus xy plus 4y squared. We'll start with our first distribution. We want to work with this term right here. Negative 5 times 2 would be negative 10 x squared y. We move to the next one. Negative 5 times negative 1 would be plus 5 x, and then I have the two y's, so that goes to y squared. And finally, negative 5 times 4 is negative 20 y squared would become a y cubed. Now I want to shift. As I shift over, this time I'm going to distribute that 3x across the trinomial. So 3x times 2x squared would be 6x cubed, because x squared, x would become the x cubed. 3x times negative xy, 3 times negative 1 would be negative 3. X would be an x squared. Y comes along for the ride. And a lot of times we cheat a little bit because these variables should match up. And of course we have to do our last multiplication here. 3 times 4 would be 12 x y squared. And once I have all those terms multiplied out, it's time to add them up. And so the first term just gets rewritten. The second one, as I add these up, you owe me 10, you owe me 3, you owe me 13. The label does not change. It's an x squared y. 5 and 12 would be 17. Label does not change. X y squared. And minus 20y cubed. So here we got 4 terms.